Folks, we're just about a minute away to getting started. We wanted to make sure that everybody got on and actually saw something so that you weren't looking at a blank screen wondering if you were in the right place. Give us another 30 seconds and we'll get started.
And just a reminder to everybody, if at any point during the presentation you have any questions, feel free to click on the little hand symbol. That will let me know you're raising your hand and we can address you during the public comment portion.
Howdy, folks. I'm Anthony Wagner. I'm the manager of permits and licensing for the Santa Barbara Police Department. I'm grateful that you are here today. Thank you very much for that. Nick, your camera is on. There we go. With me today is a special agent in charge of alcoholic beverage control for the Tri-Counties, Nick Sartucci. Thank you very much, Nick, for being here. We're grateful to have your subject matter expertise as we roll out this program in our city. Would you like to say a few words?
No problem. Happy to be here. Hopefully we can make this process quicker for everybody and get everyone licensed as fast as possible.
Thank you, Agent. I appreciate it, and thank you for being on again. So this is the COVID temporary catering authorization application to expand your license into the public space. Who should be on the workshop right now? Any food service business with an alcoholic beverage control license wishing to expand their planned license diagram into the public space. Also, any public-facing retail alcohol establishment that can document a financial relationship with a bona fide eating establishment. And then the ABC uses the term a meal service vendor. So while the state maintains your privilege to sell alcohol, and that's preordained by the California Constitution, that same Constitution gives the city the right to govern the business practice in which you're serving the alcohol. Here's today's presentation. We're going to go over the action that's going to be taken by council about an hour from now. We're going to better understand the ABC catering authorization form. We're going to look at filling out the ABC planned license diagram. We're going to look at what you need to do if you are a retail establishment that's not a traditional restaurant, say for example a nightclub or something like that, in which you would enter into a contractual obligation or a contractual agreement with a meal service vendor. We're going to talk about providing documentation to the ABC, and we'll talk about sending your application package to the ABC. I'm going to help out with that should you want my help, and then I'm going to hand deliver that to Nick tomorrow, and we'll get into that as well. So here's the action taken by council. So today, a little bit later in the budget hearing, about 11:30 or so, the council will take up an emergency ordinance. But last Thursday, California governor approved, and then that was ratified by the Santa Barbara County's public health officer. They laid out criteria necessary to reopen not only retail, but businesses after a county self-certification process. So in order to get that self-certification process, make sure you check in with the county's website, and they have a check sheet to make sure that you're opening safely. Each participating business must now adhere to those public health measures that are on the website, and be prepared for sometime in the future a public health officer to monitor your social distancing and to ensure that your restaurant is executing proper measures so that we slow the spread of COVID. Santa Barbara City, of course, will vote on that urgency ordinance about an hour from now, in which you're able to expand into the public space. So let's understand that temporary catering authorization application. So let's start from the beginning. What you would do is you would go to abc.ca.gov, and if you want to do that while I'm talking, we can do that. So you go to the ABC's website, then you're going to scroll down to the home page on ABC's website. It says COVID-19 temporary catering authorization application. Now I want you to hover over those words with your mouse and then click the link. And then here's something important. I don't want you to try to fill out the form on the web browser. I want you to save that application to your computer so that you can save it in the future and print it out without accidentally making a mistake on the web browser itself. So make sure you download that PDF and then we'll go from there. So the temporary catering authorization has 3 sections, the application details, the application acknowledgements, and the declaration and signature. Let me go ahead and show you the first part. So let's go ahead and look at these instructions if you're able to read this. There's a couple places where you can actually hover over the words and you can see the ABC 218 form, that is the instructions. And then down below in the black text, you can see there's an ABC 253 form. And then please read these directions at will at your leisure. But let's go over. If you've forgotten your license number, you can go to the ABC's website and look up your license number. The total fee on here is going to be $100. And now let's go ahead and blow up section 1. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Let me go back. So section 1 is the license name. Go ahead and refer back to California Alcoholic Beverage Control's website if you need to look up what the official name of the license is, the contact person, the phone number, the license premise address. Here's the most important thing on this page. The most important thing on the page is to legibly, perfectly fill out your email address. Your email address is the conduit of communication that the ABC is going to send back your temporary authorization via email as soon as they process it. So if you have fudged your email address or no one can read it, there's a very good chance that it will delay your application. So whoever has the best handwriting in your office, spouse, child, make sure that your email address is as legible as possible. Number 6 is a description of the expanded area. And you'll say, oh, I'm going into the sidewalk or I'm going into a closed street. And we'll get into that with the 253 form as well. The description of how the expanded area will be delineated. The city of Santa Barbara would like you to use some stanchions. I'm going to get to that to the next slide. Question 8 has to do with if you're expanding with another person. I believe that has to do with the meal service vendor. If you're entering into a contractual obligation with another bona fide eating establishment or a food service vendor, make sure you click that box. Question 9, are you contracting with another person for meal service? You would check that. Do you have the legal authority? Everybody's going to say, yes, of course, you have the legal authority on number 10. And number 11 is, what is your legal authority? Here's what I want you to write in the box for number 11. Number 11, under valid authority, the valid authority is City of Santa Barbara Emergency Economic Recovery Ordinance. And it looks like Sherry Villanueva has raised her hand. Let's go ahead and answer Sherry Villanueva's question. If Holly can help unmute her mic.
No, I'm sorry, no question. My mistake on the hand.
Oh, no worries. I'm happy that you're here. Thank you so much. So make sure in question 11, you write City of Santa Barbara Emergency Economic Recovery Ordinance. That's for question number 11 on that form. The fixed barriers or delineations that will be used in order to control your temporary area will look like one of these stanchions. We're trying to provide uniform guidance so that everybody sort of looks the same. And these types of stanchions will be helpful when we are delineating the space that you want to control your space and to lay out your restaurant. But just remember, we still need to address the ADA guidelines that Clay and I were talking about a little bit earlier. So this is the middle of the catering application form. You're going to read through these and you are going to check the appropriate boxes. This is just basically an attestation that you're going to follow the rules. And then the bottom part of the catering authorization application, make sure you sign legibly, you date it with the date that you choose, today or tomorrow, and then leave the bottom for the ABC. And then let's talk about filling out the planned license diagram. So not only are you going to print out your catering authorization form, but you're also going to print out your planned license diagram. So here are some preliminary design guidelines set forth by the city. And I want to correct myself on this. It had 4 feet, but excuse me, it had 6 feet, but now we have guidance, and I forgot to move this, guidance for 4 feet. So for sidewalks along the storefront equal to the width of the storefront, 4 feet of passable sidewalk area to be maintained at minimum for ADA. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in the next slide. But you have to always maintain a clear path of travel for that wheelchair to be able to use the sidewalk. It's not meant to be a thoroughfare through your restaurant, but we have to keep that space available for our ADA folks. And I'm going to show you a picture of how that would work. On-street parking places, I know many of you have gotten into your parklet. Make sure that you check in with the city's public works department and look on the city's website for the parklet guide. We have specific instructions on how to build your parklet so that it meets all the design requirements that are embedded within that parklet guide. Now, if you're on a closed street, which I would imagine the vast majority of people are somehow oriented with State Street, on a closed street in front of or adjacent to the business, the dining area from the width of the storefront and the depth, you can go all the way into the street minus 7 feet from the center line. Now, I want you to put in your mind's eye that the fire department and the police department need a 14-foot path of travel in the street as a fire lane. So that means on the left side, you need to leave 7 foot, and on the right side, you need to leave 7 foot. So 7 foot from the center line of the street. We have a question from John Nasser. You lost me getting to the website. So let's go ahead and stop for a second and go, and we'll give you instructions. So you go to the California Alcohol Beverage Control's website, and that is it's abc.ca.gov. I will say it again. The California Alcoholic Beverage Control's website is my gosh, I said it wrong again, is abc.ca.gov. And then once you land on the homepage, if you just scroll down, you will see a temporary authorization form. And once you click on or hover over the temporary authorization form, you click on that, it will bring up a PDF. You'll have the opportunity to fill the PDF out on the browser. I don't think you should do that. I think you should right-click and save the document so that you can fill it out at your leisure, not on the browser itself. John, I'm hopeful that that helps. If anyone has any questions, I have my telephone number at the end of the presentation. But John, I want you to feel free to call me. My telephone number is 805-448-5824, and we'll work on it together. I think it's my intent and the intent of the city is to do everything we can to help you be successful in order to financially stabilize your business at this time. So John says that he's now caught up, so we're good to go. So we're going to look at a couple more preliminary design guidelines. So the next one is on private property. And this is for all of you that don't necessarily have a closed street, but you have a beautiful surface parking lot area. And this is, I want to be very clear, our preference is to ensure that we reduce liability and that we maintain an ADA path of travel. So here's what that means. If you're going to use your private parking lot, a business must maintain full drivable access to the ADA parking spot. So they need to be able to back up, they need to be able to move around, they need to be able to do all the things they need to do in order to safely park in your ADA parking space. And you must also maintain an ADA path of travel from that ADA parking space to your restaurant, both indoor and outdoor dining. Just think, if you have to move something in any way, that means that you have not provided equal fair access to an ADA individual to be able to frequent your establishment. For city parking areas, some of you may wish to enter into some sort of city property other than what was once the public right-of-way. So you're going to have to work with Public Works to get direct permission should you want to expand your space into a city parking area. We're not saying no, we're saying that you need to check in, and it's a case-by-case basis. I have one person that asked me to repeat my telephone number. Absolutely. My telephone number, it's my cell phone. I answer it 24/7. Please don't test that. My cell phone number is 805-448-5824. And I promise you it will be in the back of the presentation. But I just wanted John Nasser to be able to get a hold of me if he still wasn't able to log on to get that stuff. But it looks like we're good to go. Looks like 2 more people have their hands raised. Let's go ahead, Holly, and call on the first of those 2 people.
Okay, it looks like Dawn has her hand raised. And Dawn, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, this is actually Bob Stout on my wife's. Hi, guys. Thanks, Anthony, for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks for all your hard work, too.
Thank you. Back to the ADA pathway in front of a building, is it 4 feet or 6 feet?
I wrote the wrong thing, and I made a mistake by, I had to change my presentation around from my PD account to my city account, and in that transition, I lost the fact that it's 4 foot. The fact of the matter is the distance must accommodate a wheelchair. Now, we are telling you it's 4 foot, but as long as you provide free access, unencumbered, that you don't have to move stuff around, and that individual is able to wheel themselves through that unencumbered space, you're good to go. Does that answer your question, Bob? And I have a picture a little bit later in the slide.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Bob. And thanks for all your hard work. Bob has been instrumental in helping the business community achieve this success. Next question, Holly.
Okay, and I'm not sure whether it was just answering your previous question, but it looks like Guido has a question, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and it may be something different. Okay, feel free to go ahead and speak, Guido. I think you may have already answered his question with your phone number, so I'm going to go ahead and mute him again because I don't hear him. I don't think he's live.
Outstanding.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was just about the phone number. Thank you.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you so
I'm going to
much.
say it just one more time. My cell phone number, 805-448-5824. And it's in the back of the presentation as well. So those of you who want access, I'm here for you as long as you need me.
And Anthony, it looks like we do have one more written question. And
Sure.
the question is, where do we have to submit the temporary authorization application?
We're going to get to that. I'm here for you, and that's coming up in the next slide as well. So hold tight, and we're going to do it together. All right, so filling out your planned license diagram. So John Nasser, you go to that COVID-19 temporary catering authorization application. Again, if you hover over the instructions, I think that's in my next thing here. Yeah, if you hover over the instructions, you see where I wrote the red circle here. If you hover over that ABC 253 form, it will actually hyperlink where you can click on that and you can get to the 253 form there. If you have trouble with that, here is the link. This particular video is available to watch again at your leisure, and we're going to have it on City TV. So anybody that wants a copy of this video so that we can go through it again together, or call me, it will be available after we get off here. But as a backup, in order to get to your 253, you see the website here. Even as a backup to that, if you type in California Alcoholic Beverage Control 253 form, you'll be able to pick up the 253 form via Google. So it's a pretty easy form to find, ABC form 253. Let's go ahead and fill it out together. So the first part of the 253 form is your information. The applicant name, I put, make sure you put your last name first. I had to fill out the form twice because I put my name in the wrong spot. So make sure you don't make the same mistake that I did. So Wagner, Anthony, John, and then the license type. What license type do you have? Do you have a type 47? Do you have a type 48? Do you have a type 41? Do you have a type 75 or 23? Any of those semi-retail, non-retail licenses, as long as you're pairing it with food and you can document your relationship, you're good to go. So the ABC and the city of Santa Barbara are doing everything within our power to ensure your financial stability, and that's why we're doing this now. So let me go a little bit lower, because here's how I filled out the form. So here is the planned license diagram. So I filled out my name again, my type 47, and then I drew the business face itself. So this just happens to be on State Street. It's an imaginary business. I show in red where my alcohol is being served from. I'm going to very clearly show on my temporary catering authorization form that I'm using the city's guidelines for whatever stanchions I choose to use. And I very clearly show where the alcohol service is taking place. Now, let's go ahead and go down from the top to the bottom. So sure, I have my business space there. We're good to go with that. That makes sense. And then I have the sidewalk. You may serve on the sidewalk as long as there is an ADA path of travel. Now, I don't remember which business owner it was. I think that it was Clay. Clay was worried about people walking through his establishment. I think that might have been Jane's as well. People were worried about walking through the establishment. What I suggest, and I'm going to see if I can pull it up on my cursor here. If everybody can see my cursor all the way to the right at the edge of the red, if you would like to put up stanchions from here to here and then stanchions from here to here, you can physically show that you are controlling 100% of that space. But keep in mind that we don't want you to have to move anything in order to have free, unencumbered access of a wheelchair to go all the way through to the other side, should they wish. So ideally, you would put your stanchions right here and then have an opening, and then put your stanchions from here all the way across here, have a little bit of opening right here, and then have another stanchion right here. And when you do that, you psychologically are able to show a pedestrian they're about ready to walk through your restaurant. And most likely, when it is constructed in this particular way, there's a pretty good chance that people will walk around and take a safer egress into the State Street. Now, let's look at the bottom of the line, the bottom of the two red lines right here. Now, please make sure that there is a 7-foot delineator of no man's land between the center line of State Street or the center line of whatever street happens to be closed off and where you're putting up your stanchions. So 7 foot, a 7-foot drive for a fire truck, which was 14 foot if you go all the way to the other side, right? So a fire lane all the way through the middle of State Street. That'll be for the pedestrian access. That'll be for the bicyclists and everybody else that has their fancy electronic stuff. But please maintain that 7-foot distance from the center line. 3 hands raised. Let's go. Let's go for Chad first. Help me out, Holly. And let's go ahead and see Chad's question.
Okay, hold on. Let's see, Chad. There you are.
Okay, sorry, Anthony. Hey, I own Sambo's restaurant down on the beach front on Cabrillo Boulevard, and we have our outdoor dining section that we have approved from you guys. Currently, we have a 10-foot space between the sidewalk and the street. Are you saying I can move my outdoor dining, providing the ADA space of 4 feet to the edge of the sidewalk?
I am saying that. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Now, if, say for example, and I don't know if a parklet is right for you, and you need to check with Public Works, but in a case like that, you could be eligible to have a parklet in addition to that. But
we sat in our parking lot this weekend, and people could still drive in, but we have a parking lot right behind the restaurant right there, and the ADA area is where our exit door is, and so I was setting up food there, but now I understand I can't put the foods on the trays anymore out there because we have to continue using that parking spot. So we do have our parking lot. We are doing some seating, or we did, whether it's right or wrong. And then I was wondering about my outside section.
Yep. And just remember that in that particular capacity at Sambo's, that I want you to put up the stanchion delineator from the face of your restaurant out to the sidewalk, leaving that 4-foot area for ADA path of travel, so that when the ABC checks or when the Santa Barbara Police Department checks, everyone can see you are in full control of that space where you're serving your mimosas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it needs to be stanchioned off so that a reasonable person can say, okay, looks like Sambo's is reasonably controlling this specific space for them to serve their mimosas. Let's go to the next question, Holly.
Okay. And I believe I'm probably going to slaughter this name, but I believe it's Joaquin Chow. And feel free to go ahead and ask your question.
All right.
Joaquin, oh, there you are.
Go ahead, Joaquin. All right, let's come back to Joaquin and let's go to Guido again. I'm saying.
Do you know? I think he lowered his hand, so I think that's it. If you want to go ahead and.
It's okay. If I have a question, if I can.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Sorry, maybe I missed it, but according to your diagram, it looks that we are allowed to ask for an extension just for the portion of the sidewalk exactly matching the face of the property building. But in the last couple of days, I got a visit from city inspectors, and they said that I can expand it even wider on the right and on the left of my facade. Is that correct? From an ABC, I can go wider than the strictly facade of my building? If I allowed from my neighbor, obviously.
I think everybody is unique. If you have a contractual agreement with the property owner and with the business on each side of you in order to expand a little bit further, I guess, that I don't think the ABC would find a hard time with that. And I think that that would probably be the least of our worries. Now, I'm not looking for domination of all of State Street, that you just take over everything. But if you're
Of
just
course.
looking to expand a little bit, I think that we're okay with that.
Okay,
But
thanks so
you're
much.
you're going to need to document that relationship beyond the front face of your business to the ABC, so the ABC knows that you've sought out that permission.
Thanks so much.
Okay, and I believe we have one more question from Brandon Ristano. If you want to go ahead and ask that aloud. Let me see.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me now? Thanks.
Yep,
I can hear you.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Holly, for doing this. We're very appreciative to get reopened and for all the actions you guys are taking. We really appreciate it. Quick question: we're on the 400 block, one of our venues. We know that it's possible that State Street extension or closure might extend to that block at some point. But in the short term, wondering if given permission from adjacent property, which we have, we're wondering if we can extend our width to beyond our storefront.
And as I said, I think it was to Guido, it's a case-by-case basis, but as long as you have a documented contractual agreement with your landlord and the businesses to the side of you that you're going to do something like that, and you're keeping your ADA public space right away, and you're putting up your delineators appropriately, it seems like the city wants to work with you to make something like that happen.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, Anthony, we have 4 more questions. Would you like to take them now, or
Yeah,
do you
let's
want to go
take
ahead?
them while people are having the questions, and then we'll go to the next step.
Okay, let me go ahead and we'll start with Paul Dargan. And he wrote, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You might have to unmute yourself as well.
I had when I first
go.
came to the city, I had my first cheeseburger at Dargan's before my human resources interview. So I hold Dargan's in high regard.
Perfect. And Paul Dargan, you may go ahead and ask your question aloud if you'd like. Looks like his mic is on, but he may not be near it. So he had written the question asking whether we use the application process for parklets on side streets.
Yes, it's a case-by-case basis with Public Works. Rob Dayton is the parklet guru, along with Derek Bailey. So please check in with Public Works with regard to the construction of your parklet before you do it, and to ensure that your street is a low-speed, safe street that can accommodate a parklet. I think we're taking public safety into account in that capacity as well.
Okay, and the next person is Katie Grissini. If you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Great, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for doing this. It's super helpful. I have a wine tasting room in the El Paseo, and the area that I'm hoping to expand into, I've got the okay of our landlord, of course, is a little private courtyard. It's not a sidewalk on a street. And I had checked on the ABC website with the FAQs for this temporary expansion, and I'd noticed it had said that we don't need physical barriers, at least initially, because I want to find some that would be historically accurate for the El Paseo. And if I can control my tables easily, would I need physical barriers in that
I'm going to let
situation?
Nick help me answer that, but I would tell you from a Santa Barbara police standpoint, if you are commingling other businesses around you, a reasonable person needs to be able to see that one specific business is controlling that space for alcohol service. And Nick, do you have something to add to that? Private patio in the middle of a courtyard? Nick is the special
Yes.
agent in charge of the 3 counties.
Yeah, so we can license non-contiguous areas like that. Our website FAQs do say no physical barriers are required. However, physical delineation is still required. So you do need to put up some sort of stanchion and rope or something. And it's for your own benefit as a business owner, because people if they don't have some sort of barrier, they're going to be stepping outside of that, consuming alcohol and causing you problems. So yeah, we are still requiring some sort of physical delineation, rope and stanchion, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. And Nick is the special agent in charge of the alcoholic beverage control for the Tri-Counties. So I want to say thank you to Nick again. The Santa Barbara Police Department and the city have maintained an extraordinary relationship with the alcoholic beverage control in the Tri-Counties here. Thank you to Nick, especially Nick's helpers, Annette, Melissa, and Diana. I'll tell you, those administrative technicians do an amazing heavy lifting. And I want to get one last part add to Nick's sentiment. Now, it's a nuance in which while the alcoholic beverage control controls the sale of alcohol, the city preempts the sale of that alcohol with our ability, land use wise, to control how that is sold. So if the city has criteria for you to put up stanchions, you have to also follow the city's land use designated guidelines to do that. That's the Business and Professions Code 23790 that allows the municipality to control how service is happening. So thank you for everybody. We have another question, Holly.
Yes, we have two more. Min Lee, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question, you can unmute your microphone, please.
I went to grade school with a Min Lee. Go ahead.
Hi, I have a question. For outdoor dining, if I want to add outdoor seats, do I need a permit for that?
You are allowed to do that by right, according to the emergency ordinance. However, we have guidelines. While you don't need to expressly check in with the city before you do that, we want to establish these guidelines in this seminar so that you're doing it appropriately and effectively in partnership with the city to help you financially stabilize your business. So I don't know where your business is, but if your business is part of the street closure on State Street, you could expand your alcohol use out into the public space minus the 7 foot from the center line. And we have that, of course, in the planned license diagram that we still have up on the screen. I'm hopeful that helps, Min.
Thank you.
Next question, Holly.
Okay, and the next question is by Antonio Gurley. And hold on one moment. Let's see if we can get you to unmute yourself, and you're welcome to go ahead and ask your question.
And I will say before he starts, I will say, folks, I want you to stick around because I'm getting to the best part of the presentation, and that's how to turn in your application, in which myself and a couple of police technicians and Jason Harris are going to help you by taking in your application here at the city, and then I'm going to truck it down to Nick Thursday afternoon. So stick around. We're not done with the presentation, but I wanted to be able to answer people's questions in real time before we went further. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you, Anthony, for doing this. I really appreciate it. So I have one question. Do you know for how long will State Street be closed to the traffic?
The emergency order thus far is for 90 days. The council is yet to vote on that. They still are. They're going to vote on it towards 11:30 or so. But thus far, city staff is recommending about 90 days. It could be absolute longer than that. We don't know that. We're sort of taking it in real time, just like you. But the emergency order could be extended by vote of the council. But right now, it's 90 days.
Okay, thank you, great. And another question, so the only way to submit the application is through mail, or there is...
Hold on, stick around with me. We're going to do it together.
Sorry, okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Don't steal my thunder. We're gonna tackle this together. Thank you so much.
And we do have one more question from
Last
Scott
question, and then we're
Steffen.
gonna go on.
Okay, Scott Steffen.
Oh, I thought you were just going to ask it. Yes, for supplemental form 253. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
The name of the LLC that we're applying for, or the person that's filling it out on behalf of the LLC?
You need to put your whatever you have memorialized in your license, whatever name is attached with your license, you probably should do that. I'm going to let Nick answer that technical question. Nick, can you help me out with that?
Yeah, so everything on the application needs to be the name that you hold the license under. So if it's under an LLC, you put that in the box on the 253 and on the temporary catering authorization application as well.
That's crystal clear. Thank you.
Perfect. And now I'm going to get to the next part, and then I still want you guys to come up with your questions, but let's get to the next part here. Okay, so here's what that looks like, fancy dancy. God bless Rob Dayton for being able to put this together. So you have your ADA accessible aisle. You're still able to put up your stanchions before and after that, and just leave an area open. Remember that you could be in violation if you have to move something for a wheelchair. As long as there's a free and unencumbered path of travel, everybody is good to go. And remember, your tables need to be 6 foot apart. And I believe there'll be a time, sometime in the near future, where public health officials go through to make sure that you are addressing public health measures necessary, social distancing necessary in order to safely slow the spread of COVID. So make sure you are designing the infrastructure of your interior restaurant and exterior to abide by social distancing, 6 foot of the tables. Another thing, you can't serve more than 9 people to a tabletop. So you can't serve 10 or more. It has to be 9 or less according to the public health rules. The other thing somebody had asked before, you all can use all of your dishware, all of your glassware. You don't have to buy anything different for the public space. The only thing that you probably would have to invest in are the stanchions. But this is what it looks like for the pedestrian zone, the ADA accessible space at 4 foot, and the interaction with the tables, the chairs on the sidewalk, and then also going out into State Street minus 7 foot to the center line. And just always keep in mind that I would not fudge the 7 foot from the center line, because we're eventually going to have to drive a fire truck through there, and we don't want you guys to be the guy that encroached on that. So please be very cognizant of that. So let's talk about the contractual agreement for all of you non-retail retail establishments. That would be maybe a winery or a microbrewery or a bar that does not normally have food service. As long as you have a third-party meal service vendor with you, you are allowed to serve your alcohol. Now, I will say this, it's important that you note, this is not just the service of alcohol, this is the service of food complementing it with alcohol. So here's documenting the relationship. So a non-retail license that does not operate as a bona fide eating place may contract with a retail license to be a meal provider for that non-retail license, for that type 23, type 75, type 2, type 23 if I didn't say that. The temporary relief is that if there's no undue influence, no quid pro quo. So it has to be an up and up contractual relationship to where there is no quid pro quo. If you are entering into agreement with another person or entity for meal service, you must submit a copy of the agreement with the contract that establishes the details of this business relationship. So 3 things. You have to do your catering authorization, you have to do your plan license diagram, And if you are entering into a meal service contract with a third party, you have to document that. And I will say, and fourth, you have to make sure that you include your check to the alcoholic beverage control for $100. So all of this application is $100. And make sure you fill out the application, fill out the check made payable to California Alcoholic Beverage Control, California ABC, in your check. And it probably is within your best interest to put your license number in the bottom line there. So providing documentation to the Santa Barbara Police Department. So not only did I give you my my telephone number earlier, but I want you to PDF me a copy to awagner@SantaBarbaraPoliceDepartment.com. So awagner@sbpd.com. Now, the caveat is if you're going to bring the packet to me tomorrow, you don't necessarily have to do this. You just need to give me a duplicate. And we're going to get to that, okay? So hold tight. If you want to mail it for whatever reason, because you're a mailer, it's 215 East Figueroa, the police department. Next one. So sending in your packet, here's what I want to do in order to be helpful, because if you do it by mail, Nick's going to get that processed probably sometime next week, because it's going to take 3 or 4 days to send it to Ventura by mail. So here is what your city is offering you in partnership to help you be successful. So city staff will accept the physically completed packet on Thursday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at City Hall. You got to bring your $100 check made payable to the alcoholic beverage control. The drop-off location is here at City Hall, where I'm at right now. Staff will review the application with you, make sure it's correct. Make sure you bring a duplicate so that the Santa Barbara Police Department can memorialize that. So you need to bring 2 copies, one to go down to the ABC and one to be memorialized with the Santa Barbara Police Department. And then I will take all of those packets and drive them down to Nick. Nick will be able to process those on Friday, or excuse me, Thursday. I'll probably get to Nick by 2 o'clock. Nick will have Thursday and Friday to process them, and he will in real time email, his staff will email you your authorization. You don't have to wait for the check to clear. You have to write a good check, but all of this stuff is a good faith effort to keep this going as rapidly as possible to help you be compliant. So ABC will process the application and PDF that authorization by email to you. So make sure the most important thing on your application is that you find the person with the most pristine handwriting to write your email on the temporary catering authorization. Let's see. And then that is my cell phone number so that you don't have to hunt me down, and that's at my hip. So please, I'm here for you to help you in any capacity be successful with your alcoholic beverage control application. With that, we'd like to answer some questions for you. It looks like that Special Agent in Charge, Nick, will stay on the line. This will also be recorded, so you can watch this in the future. But let's get back to more questions. Go ahead.
Okay, let's go ahead and start with Guido again. It looks like you have a question. If you want to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I already asked my questions. Thanks so much.
Oh, okay, perfect. Then we can move on to Jack Mathis.
Yeah, I was wondering the name on the supplemental, it says applicant name last, first, middle, and then later you said if it's a corporation or an LLC, that's the name that should go in there. Is that correct?
Let's let Nick answer that specific question.
That is correct. This form is the same as we take from people who are applying for permanent licenses. So yes, there's LLCs, there's corporations. You put the name that the license is under, the company or the partnership or whatever.
Okay, and that's on the primary form as well as the supplemental diagram.
Yes.
Okay.
And I just want to interject one more time before people start dropping off. If you come tomorrow, let's go back to that slide and then I'll go back. Forgive me. So if you come tomorrow, bring your packet in duplicate to me here at City Hall. I'll set up a desk and chair downstairs. Make sure you wear your mask and proper social distancing requirements. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You're going to bring in duplicate your catering authorization form. You're going to bring your 253 form. You're going to bring your financial relationship with the meal service vendor, and you're going to bring your check made payable to the alcoholic beverage control. I'm going to drive that down for everybody, hand that to Nick, and Nick's going to get started with his technicians. I wanted to make sure that was perfectly clear. 11 a.m. to 1 tomorrow, Thursday, I'll be available to take your packet so you don't have to drive all the way down there. And I'm going to hand it directly to Nick. Go ahead, Holly. What's the next question?
Okay, we have Antonio Gurley. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you. He already answered to my question. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, perfect. And next is Dawn, or Bob Stout, I believe it is. Go ahead and try and unmute yourself. There you go.
There you go. Hey, two questions. One for Nick. On the license diagram, if we don't have our original diagram, is that important as long as it, in other words, if I didn't save a copy of my original diagram, would that be a problem as long as it's consistent with that when you look at it?
Hi, Bob. No, it doesn't. You don't have to use a previously submitted diagram. You can just do everything on this diagram. Show your existing licensed premises on this diagram in relation to the area you're expanding to. One thing I want to add, good job, Anthony. Really good information. It's going to really help us on our end. If you guys can add the dimensions of the area you're expanding to, because yes, we can license, to each side. It just depends on getting approvals from Public Works and all the other people involved. But we want to know the dimensions of the area we're approving.
And thank you. And one other question. So if we're a type 8 and we're contracting with a licensed, food service, the catering permit is really for the type 48, not for the other, not for the restaurant that we're using, right?
So you're saying, yeah, anyone who's planning on expanding from their existing footprint of their business uses this temporary catering authorization application.
Okay, all right, thanks. And I just want to say thanks to both of you very much.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Holly.
Okay, we have Mark Houston.
Oh, Jane. So we do both of these for each one. That's good.
Hi, can you hear me?
You're still on, looks like, Bob. Go ahead, Scott.
Can you hear me now?
Mr. Houston, yes, sir.
Anthony,
Mark
yeah,
Houston.
thanks. It was great to meet you, Anthony. Thank you.
Yes,
and
sir.
I appreciate you answering your phone right away too. That was pretty amazing. And Nick as well. Thank you both. You were very helpful. I have 3 questions. One is, can I amend this at a later time? Right now we have sufficient space on our sidewalk, but we may, as permission from my neighbors, if they reopen, I may have to go out in the street. So can I amend this at a later time or should I just include that space now? That's question number 1.
I would include the space now because anytime you amend it, you have to hit another $100.
Okay, super. Okay.
That's correct.
And then for number 2, my second question is, we also have a restaurant in Goleta. So who do I, on question number 11 on the form, who is the authorizing? Is that Goleta, City of Goleta Emergency Economic?
No, you got to call Goleta City Hall. I only
Okay.
can speak to the jurisdiction of the city of Santa Barbara.
Wouldn't Nick know that?
For the city of Goleta, I do not. You just,
Don't know.
you do
Okay, I'll
have to
call them.
indicate on, yeah, just.
And it
box
is on
11 does
private
have to be
property
filled
because
out.
we're, okay. Because we are on private property there too, so I'll call the City of Goleta then.
And the only advice that
So
I
it's
would
probably
say,
your landlord in the city that you need to get approval from.
Okay.
and the one thing I would say, regardless of city jurisdiction, it's very wise here in the city of Santa Barbara. It's mandatory, but it's wise to always ensure that you have an unencumbered, drivable pathway for your ADA parking spaces, and that the ADA parking space itself has a path of travel to your restaurant.
Right, right. We have that. I just want to, right. And then last question on the diagram, that great one that Rob wrote, you had 6 feet apart from the tables. So is it 6 feet apart from the customers or from the tables? Because that's two different measurements. Like, for instance, the backs of where people's sitting. Is it the actual physical distance from people or is it the table?
I don't think anybody's going to get a tape measure out. I think that we're going to
Okay.
see people who aren't social distancing, but I think that you would be wise if you cared that much that it would be from people's backs rather than the table.
Well, that's what I've been doing. Okay.
Yep.
That's what I've done. So I just wanted to double check that. So
Perfect.
Okay. Super. Thanks a lot for your help. It was great to meet you. Nice to see you
Thank you so
unmasked.
much, Mark. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and the next is Megan Eng.
Oh, hi. I'm just wondering, maybe you've gone over this already. Is there a boilerplate agreement form? You know, you said we need to document a contractual agreement between a third party and a winery or a brewery for food. Do you guys have a boilerplate agreement, or are there certain ways you want it addressed in a document?
I don't have a preference. I think that's a Nick question. I would say as long as you are doing it in full faith and effort to document that financial relationship, but let Nick take over that question.
No, we don't have a boilerplate agreement. That is something you have to come up with the food service provider you contract with as to how they're going to provide you with the food and how you're going to then resell it to your customers in the same transaction as the alcohol sale, which is a requirement of all the guidance that's been put out by the county and the state.
Sure. I mean, are there specific things that you want to see, just like the names of the two businesses and, you know, the items provided or terms of service, or how much, what do you want to see?
A signed agreement by both the food provider and the licensee. You should also mention the type of food that you're going to provide or they're going to provide at your business. Yeah, not that much, but we do need to see that both full meal service is being provided and
Right.
by somebody. Yeah.
So you want to know who the two parties are and what the transaction will be.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Holly.
Okay, next we have Katie Grassini again. And go ahead. There you are.
Hey there. Sorry about that. So Megan's question actually answered a couple of my questions. But I guess I'm looking a little bit more towards the future with wine tasting rooms. And I know you guys don't have a crystal ball, but I'm wondering if for wine tasting rooms who aren't entirely sure that they want to go down the food service route, but we do want to be able to safely serve guests as we go through this health crisis. Do we know if there will be an opportunity to potentially continue to expand this expansion into the public spaces with, and I guess this would apply to bars as well that aren't looking to provide food, to continue to expand into the public patio spaces and the sidewalk spaces without food?
I want to be perfect. I want to be very clear that the governor's order is for food service businesses to open food with ancillary alcohol. So if you are an alcohol vendor, your primary mission is to serve food with that. and that is entering into a bona fide relationship with a meal service provider to ensure that you are serving food and alcohol is ancillary to that food. Now, it's a very, very liberal opportunity for those individuals wishing to open as long as they're serving food. But the caveat, according to the governor's order, is that you have to pair that alcohol with food.
Right. No, I totally, and I'm appreciative of the opportunity completely. I'm just wondering if there will be an opportunity when they move into stage 3 and bars, if they're willing to continue the patio option, down the road, if this would be an option without food, for folks that don't want to do that.
I think that that is a conversation that you probably should have with your council member in order to memorialize your sentiments so that that gets included in the future for subsequent orders. But this particular order right now fully addresses being inside stage 2 of the governor's order. And we will continue to be malleable and adapt as a city to help in every way that we can to ensure financial stability.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. And I wondered, my final question would be, is it helpful to attach photos to the application if we think that would be helpful in addition to the diagrams, or is that just more paperwork that you guys
I think
don't
that's
need?
more paperwork, and we want to help you to expedite your application. It's not a bar that you need to rise to with pictures. I'll let Nick add to that, but you don't need pictures on our end.
Perfect.
Yes, we don't need pictures. We just need a really good 253 diagram and we'll be good to go.
Perfect. And then Nick, last question, just following up on Megan's, you don't need to see a copy of a menu or anything, just kind of a description of the type of food.
We don't need a copy of a menu, but yeah, if you can indicate in your food service agreement what is going to be offered by the food service provider. So kind of, we do need a menu, but you can put that into the contract.
Okay, so sort of a description of, in general terms.
Yeah, the type of meals that are going to be provided by the food service provider. So that way we see that it's an assortment and you're in compliance with section 23038, which is what we're following at this time.
Okay, so that you can see that it's a bona fide meal.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This has been so helpful.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you. I just want to reiterate before more people drop off that the city of Santa Barbara, city staff inclusive of myself, are available tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at City Hall, 735 Anacapa, in order to work with you on your application to make sure it's complete, that you're bringing it in duplicate, that you have your check for the alcoholic beverage control, and then I, after 1 o'clock, will drive it down to the alcoholic beverage control in Ventura, hand it directly to Nick, and Nick will start processing that as soon as he is able. We are hopeful that each of you will get emailed temporary authorizations shortly. So I wanted to say that once again before more people drop off. Go ahead, Holly.
Okay, we have a number of questions still waiting. We're going to go ahead and take Thomas Byrne first, followed by Sherry Villanueva, and then Rachel Klein. So Thomas, if you want to go ahead and start, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, first off, I'd like to thank you guys very much for all your efforts. This is a good way, I think, to get back to business in stages here. Megan answered my question, one of my questions earlier, because I was curious to know what the details of the agreement with the food provider would be. The second question I was curious to know is, me being a bar, if we wanted to offer more than one option to our customers, could we have several agreements or more than one agreement?
You could have more than one meal provider. I don't think that is at issue. Nick?
Absolutely, you can have multiple food service providers, have a contract with each of them.
I see, but we'd have to provide those with the application, or if we decided to add later, would that be an issue, or how would that work?
If you add anything later,
have to
you have to redo your $100 and have a new application.
I see. Okay.
Well, the food service provider, if you added another food service provider later, you wouldn't necessarily have to apply again.
Okay.
But we just ask that you provide us a copy of the contract so we have a record of everything in our file.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay, and next we're going to go to Sherry Villanueva.
Hi, my question was answered. But I did want to reiterate the thank you. This is super helpful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks for your hard work and civic duty you do.
My pleasure.
Perfect. Next we'll go to Rachel Klein.
Hi, as per usual, just want to say thank you so much for everything that you guys have been doing to help us out, especially navigating all of these fun forms. My question is on behalf of Pascucci's, and so they have a Type 47 and Type 58 catering licenses that actually do allow for serving alcohol off the premises. Do we still need to fill out that additional form, not just the diagram, but the additional form for the ABC license?
Yes, and I would say that you need to document your expansion into the public space for the Santa Barbara Police Department. But in addition, because you're operating in the public space, this temporary authorization is in addition to the Type 58. Am I right about that, Nick?
Yes, this is, it's very confusing because it's the same form as we accept for 58s for when you're catering off-site. But yes, this is for a temporary semi-permanent expansion with no expiration off of your existing licensed premises. So it's not the same as a 58, and you do need to fill it out if you want to expand.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Okay, and we have a question from Paul Dargan, who I believe his mic wasn't working last time. His question says, which party needs to document the agreement? The food provider or the receiving party, or both?
The alcohol license needs, the onus is on the alcohol license to provide the documentation.
Okay. And it looks like Ian Smith, who has left the chat room, left a question for us before he had to go, and it said he submitted an application last week. When should he expect to receive feedback?
And that's the challenge with everyone that submitted applications before they got guidance from the city. I think that that's a gray area, but Nick, can you speak to probably the waiting period for the mail and then getting back to that individual?
Yes, so our goal is to get these in and out as fast as possible, and the turnaround time is about 1 to 2 days if you have provided everything we need. If there's follow-up involved, myself and my supervising agent have been contacting the number provided on the application to get those answers. And if you haven't got back to us, then we're just waiting to then get your answer and then process it. So there are some delays, and that's why this is very helpful.
Okay. And next we have Seth Anderson, who I believe is still here. If you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
That was the exact same question that was just answered. I mailed it in on Thursday, and I was just wondering if we should submit 2 maybe to ensure that the diagram is.
And Seth, as long as your diagram is not in conflict with what you heard today, I think that you're good to go. If you heard something that I've said that's in conflict with your plan license diagram, I think that you probably should resubmit. I know you had turned that into me. I know you have been a very good steward of your paperwork, and I can't recall off the top of my head if there are any differences, but if you heard differences, you probably should resubmit.
It's just a little bit less specific. That's what we've used in the past for events, so it's not as detailed, but there's nothing that contradicts what.
I think for you, you just need to make sure your back parking lot, if you're going to use that back parking lot, that you provide a safe, accessible, drivable path of travel for the ADA parking space and an ADA path of travel for all of your service areas.
So one more question on that is, before for the events, we've moved the ADA spot to the front of the driveway. Is that acceptable in this application as well?
I would say that with this temporary catering authorization, whatever ADA access you already have logged with the city, you need to maintain that.
Okay.
Okay, and next, Bill Kavanaugh. He doesn't have a microphone, so he asked that his question be read. It says, our license is a type 48. Are we required to exclude minors from our new sidewalk area?
Nick, that's a pretty good question.
Yes, the rules that apply to 48s and 42s are still in place. So whatever area you expand to, no minors are allowed in that area as well.
Thank you,
Okay.
Nick.
And next we have Jason Tooley. And hold on one moment while I get to your mic.
Unmuted.
There you are.
Hi
Jason
there.
Tooley. Yeah, there you go.
I just have a question. If we're in San Ynez Valley, all these same applications apply?
The application applies, but you need to get jurisdiction-specific information from your land use authority. I would not, maybe that's San Ynez, maybe that's the unincorporated area. I can't provide you counsel. I only can speak directly to City of Santa Barbara land use designations and direction. So this workshop is specific to restaurants inside the City of Santa Barbara.
And I'll just add that all the ABC forms that Anthony has showed you guys, they apply in every situation, every city, every county area. So all the information provided is helpful for all areas.
Perfect. How many more questions, Holly?
Quite a few.
Okay,
So
perfect. And
next up,
we are live until noon, and then I'll take your questions offline. Go ahead.
okay, we have the next three are going to be Chad Stevens, Bob Stout, and Gabriella Larkins. Let's go ahead and start with Chad Stevens. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, there you are.
Hey, I want to tell you, thank you very much, Anthony, and a lot of the questions were answered within this presentation. I want to work with a winery, actually Area 51, and possibly he has to submit his own permit. That would be Martin Brown and me, and I've been providing food for him. So we have to have our own separate applications, I guess is what I'm asking.
Whoever is the master alcohol license needs to fill out the application.
Okay.
This is specific to the master license holder of the designated license, whether that be a 47, 42, 75, 23, any of those. That's the individual that needs to apply.
Okay, great. Hey, I want to thank you guys a lot. It's great to hear from Bob and everybody else that I know on this webcast. I want to say the city is coming together, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Chad.
Okay, let's next go to Bob Stout again. Bob, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, guys, again, thanks. The hard question, and Nick, does it sound like we may be able to serve alcohol in our expanded areas as of Friday night? I know a lot of people are probably wondering that.
Let me answer before Nick. I will say that I'm going to take your application should you want to give it to me. I'm going to take it down to Nick shortly after 1 o'clock, and then Nick and his technicians need an opportunity Thursday afternoon and Friday to be able to process the application.
Yeah, you cut out when you asked. I think you were asking if you're going to have your license by Friday night, correct?
Yes, that's right, Nick.
Our goal is to get them processed within 1 or 2 days. So if we get them tomorrow afternoon, we're going to do our best to get them all issued.
Well, it's amazing. We'll look for an email, and I'll make sure my wife fills out the applications, because my handwriting is shit.
All right.
Okay, and next we have Gabriella Larkins. And if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, there you go.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for doing this. It's very helpful. I'm planning to reopen tomorrow. I'm on Anacapa Street between Coda and Ortega. And I wanted to put 4 two tops with the 6 feet distance outside. And we do have a clearance of 4 feet for ADA that I just learned on this webinar. When I do the application, ABC form 253, is there any cost on that?
It's $100. So should you want me to process your application and drive it down to the ABC, you need to do a couple things for tomorrow. You need to fill out your temporary catering authorization. You need to fill out your 253 form. You need to document a relationship, should you have one, with a bona fide meal service. And you need to write a check made payable to the California Alcoholic Beverage Service, Beverage Service Control, oh boy, Alcohol ABC, and Nick, give me the name that you want on the check because I'm losing my mind here.
But Anthony, I'm sorry, but we are like we are a restaurant. I mean, restaurant bar.
Yes, you still, if you want to expand into the public right away, if you want to expand into the public space, you need to fill out this application.
Even the catering and food permit?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, the check is made payable to Alcoholic Beverage Control. Alcoholic Beverage Control.
I say it enough times.
So the ABC. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gabriella.
Okay, and next we have Scott Steffen, John Nasser, and Jason Jones. Let's go ahead and start with Scott Steffen. See, I've got you muted. Oh, there you are.
How are you?
Good.
Excellent. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, so we have, thank you. I'm going to reiterate everything, and I hope you don't get tired of hearing thank you. We have a Type 23 duplicate in Santa Barbara. We have a food vendor, a restaurant that we are married to, so that contract is done. It's dusted, no problem there. Our original Type 23 does not have a food vendor. We are looking to get a myriad of licensed caterers and food trucks in there. We don't know who they are yet, so we don't have any contracts with any of them. Do we need to scramble to get at least one in place before we apply for the original Type 23?
And you can only
we put in a placeholder.
You can only open your 23 if you already have a meal service vendor that you're doing business with. It sounds like that is available. I don't know where your second 23 is.
So the second 23 is with Buena Onda. That is done. We had licensed caterers come through the main 23 for the past couple of years. But we don't have anyone scheduled yet. We don't have anyone signed up and contracted with yet.
And both 23s are in the jurisdiction of the city of Santa Barbara?
Well, no, but they're one's in the county or city Toledo.
I only can speak to the one in the city of Santa Barbara. And if you have a 23 opening in the city of Santa Barbara, you just need to document your meal service provider contract in supplement to your temporary catering authorization and your 253 form, along with your $100 check.
I'll speak for the other areas. You do have to have a food service provider agreement included with your application to our department. So you do need to find.
All right.
Yeah.
We've got 3 people that want to do it. We haven't finished contracting yet. Guess what I'm doing this afternoon? All right, perfect. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Scott. Let's go to the next question, Holly.
Okay, we've got John Nasser.
John, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate everything you've done, John. Thank you, John.
No, you guys have been great. And I actually wrote my question in. I was so remedial getting started with you, Anthony. Could you repeat what goes in line 11 of the application again? It's the city of Santa Barbara.
Let's go back to that. Let's go back to that right now. Here it is. Give me a second.
So what's the legal authority again? The city of Santa Barbara.
I'm going to get you that sentence. Give me a second. I'm going back. Here it is. City of Santa Barbara Emergency Economic Recovery Ordinance.
Thank you.
Valid authority, City of Santa Barbara Emergency Economic Recovery Ordinance. Thank you, John. I appreciate you and your son's hard work. And Holly, let's go to the next question.
Okay, the next is Jason Jones.
Hi guys, this is Jason from the Red Piano.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, so a couple things have come up since I wrote my question. Now I have other questions. So we have a parking lot in the back that is private, and this might answer my other question. We have a handicap slot back there. Do we have to keep that open, or since it's a private lot, can I close that lot to make
You have to keep the ADA spot open. And I also would say for something like the Red Piano, I love your music, that all of this is predicated on a 10 p.m. closure for your outdoor dining. So outdoor spaces close each day of the week at 10 p.m.
So yeah, that answers my question then, because we cannot use that space then, because that ADA
and no amplified sound outdoors. I think your neighbors would probably kill me if we had like a band out there in the parking lot or something like that.
We wouldn't put a band out there. We were just gonna put seating. We were just
No,
gonna
I got it. I appreciate you. Yeah. Make sure you document your food relationship and you're good to go.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't use it at all, dude. Not with an ADA spot right up against the wall. It'll drive right through the tables.
Yep.
And even at that, I mean, you mentioned before how this is a small added expense. It's not the case for us. I mean, all my tables inside are all bolted down. All my booths are up against the wall, so I've got to buy new tables and chairs and everything for outside.
The city is not charging you anything. This is the state of California for a processing fee. So the city of Santa Barbara is not charging you anything for you to have the right to move into the public space minus 7 foot from the center line of the street.
But
So
it's
thank
only
you very much.
It's going to be possibly only for 90 days though. So I got to buy all this furniture for 3 months, right?
I can tell you that the emergency ordinance is for 90 days. I also know that the city council has the authority to always amend that, and that's up to you to speak with your city council member should you want that to go longer. I can't speak to longer. I can't speak to what's going to happen with COVID-19. I can speak to the next couple of weeks, and I can tell you that the ordinance thus far is for 90 days.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the next 3 up are going to be Guido Apizzi, Colin Campbell, and Timothy Chu. Let's go ahead and start with Guido. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, Guido. Looks like he might be having issues. Let's go ahead with Colin Campbell. Let me see. He just left, it said. He left a question though. Is there a clear directive concerning occupancy we're allowed in a space, and what's happening with dance permits?
Dance permits are not available right now. The governor did not issue the opportunity to have a dance floor open in the state of California. That's most likely for the 3rd phase. So we are specifically speaking about an eating establishment with an ancillary alcohol service beverage component.
Okay, and next up we have Timothy Chu.
Mr. Chu, go ahead.
Mr. Chu, are you still there?
I am. I don't know if my mic.
Oh,
yep, you're
there
on.
you are. Do you want to turn it up
Timothy.
just a little?
There
you are.
Better? Okay.
I hear you.
So, my establishment, we are only operating as to go. From my understanding, I am allowed to sell alcoholic beverages to go. Granted, I do not open it and it's in a sealed container. I'm aware that there's a possibility that we might not get an approval by Friday night, but we want to have tables out. Is it possible I can have those tables out? Granted, we're cleaning them after every customer leaves, and I sell them sealed beverages.
You cannot sell sealed beverages to be drank in your licensed area without doing the ABC stuff. So you have to fill out your plan license diagram, and then you need a server to be able to serve that alcohol so that you can adequately control the space. You are in charge of that space when you fill out your plan license diagram. And the same rules for that space exist inside your store and outside your store.
Gotcha. So I have to tell every customer that, hey, you are not allowed to open this because we do not have the amended ABC license. This is only to go and must remain sealed.
And you must take that out. You may not drink that on the street. You have to take that home. You may not drink that in the car. You have to wait till you get home, then drink it.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Okay, and next up we have Cecily Berry.
My question was actually already answered, but thank you.
Thank you, Cecily.
Okay, perfect. And next we have Michael and Favre. Let me see. I think you're still muted. There we go.
Hi, thank you, Anthony. I appreciate you and Nick and everyone else, everything you guys are doing.
Thanks for all your hard legal work too, Michael. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, of course. One thing that I've had a number of clients ask me about is those that currently that have a Type 47 licenses. Are they allowed to continue to serve patrons alcohol drinks on the premises without serving with a meal as well? Or is everyone now required under the same restriction that you cannot serve any alcohol drinks on the premises, irrespective of the license you have, unless you have the bona fide meals being served with them?
Nick, help me out with the nuance on that.
Well, we're going by the guidance that's been put out by the county and the state, which all says that a beverage has to be sold in the same transaction as a meal. We do have FAQs on our website you can read, which discuss it further.
I appreciate that, Nick. Right now, the guidance on the ABC website says there's no requirement that every sale of an alcoholic beverage has to be in conjunction with the sale of food, as is the requirement with to-go or delivery orders, but that an alcoholic beverage shall not be provided to a customer who is not partaking in the meal service on the premises. That's the quote from the ABC website.
Yeah, so I think that comes down to you go sit down and dine, you order your meal and your beverage, and then you are still eating and you want another beverage and you order another beverage while you're still eating your meal.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for all the work you guys are doing right now.
And at this moment, I just want to be cognizant of Special Agent Sartucci's time. We're fast approaching noon. How many more questions do we have, Holly?
Looks like there's about 3 more people that we would call on. So
we're going to answer those last 3 people in those last 3 questions, and then we're going to remind you that you always can call me directly at 805-448-5824. And Holly, and Nick, if you can stay with the last 3 questions, I'd be very, very grateful. And thank you so much to the Alcoholic Beverage Control Special Agent Nick for being available today. Nick has been an absolute rock star in helping our municipality navigate these waters. Go ahead, Holly.
Okay, let's go with Dustin Guthrie.
How's it going? Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah.
Sweet. So I was just wondering, since we're only allowed to stay open until 10 p.m. on the city street on the extended patios, if I wanted to close that 10 p.m. section and still serve food until midnight and drinks inside my restaurant, is that possible?
If your current license allows that. Everybody has a different time. So whatever your original license said you could do, you can do inside your store.
Right, but I have to close the outside at 10 p.m., right?
That is correct.
Cool. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Appreciate all the help too, man.
Thank you, Dustin.
Okay, and next we're going to go with Katie Grassini.
Go ahead, Katie. Dustin, go ahead and mute yourself.
Oh,
sorry. There I am. Sorry, I have so many questions. On question number 8 on the application, is the expanded area.
Go ahead and look at it with you.
Any other people? Is that referring to the other person? Is that the food purveyor, or is that another alcohol licensee?
That's how I read that. Nick, go ahead.
Well, we can license expanded areas with multiple licensees. but that's what we can do, but you still have to check with the city and everyone else involved. But that's what that means. If you're going to share an area with another licensee.
Okay, so one of the areas that I'm looking into expanding into, there is another wine tasting room that is technically they're in that area, but we're not sharing that area. They're staying on one side, far to the left side, and I'm staying far to the right side, and we're gonna put up there's basically a fountain dividing the area. So we're not technically going to
You need to delineate your space with your stanchions.
You would answer that question, no.
Okay, perfect. That is exactly what I needed to know. Thank you so much.
And last part, Katie, I just want to say it one more time just to hear myself say it. You have to, if you are a wine service entity, you have to enter into a relationship with a meal service provider in order to qualify for the governor's second phase.
Definitely.
Thank you, ma'am.
We already have some menus going.
Outstanding. And last question, Holly.
Okay, we have from Xiaoqin Xiao. If you want to go ahead and ask your question. And it looks like we do have a couple other questions that have popped up since then if he doesn't have access to his mic.
I want to be cognizant of Nick. Nick, can I borrow you for another 7 minutes?
Yeah, I can take as much time as we need.
Thank you, sir. Very grateful. Go ahead, Holly.
Okay, we have Jason Jones. There you are, Jason.
Okay, thanks. Hey, I just was going to ask about the guidelines for occupancy now.
Go ahead and mute the phone there. Your occupancy needs to abide by the county's RISE order. It speaks to how full you can have the interior of your restaurant. So you need to abide by that and the county's public health order. And on the outside, you must also have no less than 6 foot between each table. You can't serve more than 9 people at a table.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and it looks like Xiaoqin Xiao has written the question that says, I have a type 41 beer and wine. Can I sell liquor on State Street?
You may not sell liquor. You can continue to sell your beer and wine. You can't expand your alcohol privilege to sell spirits. You must stick with your beer and wine.
Okay, and then the final question is Matt Farr, who's asking if we can email copies of the slides from the presentation. Is that going to be possible?
Absolutely. The one thing I would say is I don't know how we were able to capture everybody's email address, Holly. If we have that, I'm happy to do that.
We don't yet, but if they'd like to contact you or me by email, they're welcome to do that. My email address is hperea@santabarbaraca.gov. Again, that's hperea@santabarbaraca.gov. And if you want to email me a request for slides, I'm happy to do that. This meeting has also been recorded and I believe it will be posted. So if you want to review it or any portions of it, you're going to be welcome to do that as well.
Perfect. At this time, I want to absolutely thank Special Agent in Charge, Nick Sartucci of the California Alcoholic Beverage Control. We are so grateful for your assistance. Your staff has been wonderful. Special thank you to Diana, Melissa, Annette, and all of your other agents, Nick. They have been, it's been a real privilege to work with you. And I will see you probably close to 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon at your office.
Sounds good, Anthony. Thanks for putting this together.
Thank you so much, everyone. And Holly, if you could go ahead and take it down, I would appreciate that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. This ends the meeting.